Hello, my name is Brooke Silcox and welcome to my presentation for MKG222 Marketing of Social Causes at the University of the Sunshine Coast. This presentation will discuss the social cause of sun protection in Australian young women. Sun exposure is the leading cause of 99% of non-melanoma cases, 95% of melanoma cases, and 90% of the visible changes commonly attributed to aging. It was found that young Australian women value the appearance of suntan skin as being healthy and attractive. Past literature revealed that many interventions were based on health risk factors, which had a negative impact of changing this target group's behaviour. This presentation developed an intervention that was based on appearance-based factors by establishing a mobile application with augmented reality to combat the behaviour of deliberately tanning to feel more attractive. The marketing 4 Ps of product, price, place and promotion were used to help develop this intervention, and social media influencers and platforms were used for distributing the message. Additionally, the end of the presentation discussed the ethical considerations, which included the exaggeration of a true image through augmented reality, as well as any potential unintended consequences, such as fear of going outside due to facing one's truth. Before I start, here is the list of the main things which will be discussed in this presentation. The purpose and scope of this presentation was to critically evaluate sun protection behaviours as a social cause through research from credible sources. A conceptual model was developed and integrated from this research to highlight the proposed intervention. I will develop an innovative ethical intervention plan to address the social cause of sun protection using the 4 marketing Ps and will illustrate a creative mock-up. I will also implement an evaluation strategy for the intervention and identify any ethical considerations and potential unintended consequences. Skin cancer remains the most prevalent cancer, with approximately 2 in 3 Australians diagnosed by the age of 70. Sun exposure causes around 99% of non-melanoma cases and 95% of melanomas across the country. For young Australians, melanoma is the most commonly diagnosed cancer, with 401 new cases between 2010 and 2014 for young females. Sun exposure is also responsible for nearly 90% of the visible changes commonly attributed to aging. Chronic overexposure to the sun can change the texture and weaken elasticity of the skin, which causes premature wrinkling, sags and bags, and easy bruising. The target market for this intervention will be Australian young women aged 16 to 24 years old who live in sunny Queensland. This age group is the primary target market because although skin cancer is largely preventable, young women report engaging in deliberate sun exposure behaviours in an attempt to darken skin tone. High sun exposure is especially of concern for young adults, as skin damage in the first 20 years of life is linked to the risk of skin cancer development in later life. Therefore, it is important to develop an intervention now to prevent any future damage. A key theme which was outlined in the literature concluded that young women perform this behaviour due to the appearance of suntan skin. It was found that despite greater knowledge of suntanning and skin cancer, and feeling personally prone to developing skin cancer, the effect of tanning on appearance and the association of tanned appearances with positive attributes such as beauty and success were the primary motivations for high UV exposure and low skin protection. The literature also revealed that the use of images such as UV filtered photographs to emphasize the effects of UV exposure on appearance had been shown to be an effective intervention tool in promoting skin protective behaviours. Previous sun safety campaigns are most often health-based, emphasizing the relationship between UV exposure and skin cancer. Although this may change beliefs, they often fail to change behaviour. Several studies demonstrated the promise of appearance-based interventions, which instead highlight the link between sun exposure and appearance detractors such as wrinkles, age spots, and uneven pigmentation for motivating UV protection. Therefore, based on this literature and using the popular theory of planned behavior model, a conceptual framework was developed. The constructs comprising the theory of planned behaviors have been used successfully by many researchers to understand the motivations underlying sun tanning, sunbathing, and sun protective behaviors. This conceptual framework outlines the key variables that will drive young women to perform sun protection. Now moving on to the intervention aims. The intervention aims include to increase awareness around prolonged sun exposure and the damaging long-lasting effects, and also the goal that 20% who download the intervention app will use sun protection when outdoors. To help achieve the intervention aims, potential partners and stakeholders would be included. Cancer Council Queensland, SunSmart, Queensland Government and USC are all credible government and education initiatives that could fund the intervention and increase awareness of this campaign. We could also use data from previous SunSmart and Cancer Council campaigns to target young women. Additionally, stakeholders could include an app development team, as we would need someone to create the mobile application, influencers such as Lauren Curtis to help promote the message to her own niche audience, which primarily consists of beauty fans in our targeted age group, and lastly, the Bureau of Meteorology to provide data on weather temperatures and UV levels within the application. Moving on to the product strategy. The product platform itself can be divided into 3 levels of product. The core, which is the benefit or value proposition, the actual, which is the desired behavior, and augmented, which relates to tangibles and services. The core product outlined for the social cause is to reduce premature aging signs and look healthier for longer. This perceived main benefit for young women makes adopting the actual product worthwhile. The actual product builds upon the less specific values and shows a specific way of achieving these. The actual product in this case is wear sunscreen every time when outdoors. And lastly, the augmented product includes all the tangible objects and services that will help perform the behavior or support the promotion of the behavior. In this case, the augmented product is a mobile application which uses augmented reality to show what the target market's skin could look like if sun protection measures are not taken. The next slide will help you visualize what the augmented product will actually look like. The mobile application will be an appearance-based intervention which will produce an educational tool that provides information and facts about UV rays and damage, and how to best mitigate the risk of sun exposure, but in a fun, interactive way. When the app first opens, it will display a screen with the name of the app and all the funding partners to add credibility and also show credit where it's needed. It will then move to a screen which will look very similar to what is currently on the phone. It will display a banner at the top to show the current temperature and how strong the UV rays are to help identify how important sun protection is on that particular day. It will have a more information tab in the bottom left-hand corner where the target audience will be able to discover more information about UV exposure. And the screen will be in camera mode, ready to snap a selfie of the person. Once they take a photo, it will go to a loading screen, which will display a message saying, "Don't let the sun get under your skin. UV damage is preventable. Protect your skin." Because the target audience will be eagerly awaiting the result, they will read this message. After this message is shown, the augmented image will pop up to show the user what they will look like if no sun protection measures are taken. They will then have the option to share this image with friends and family on social media to help promote the message and intervention. The next marketing P is to discuss place. There are 5 factors that can help reduce access barriers to services and products. These include proximity, target audience location, opening hours, point of decision making, and competitor access. Because the augmented product is an application, we will focus on where consumers will most likely use the app. In this case, because it is a mobile application, it can be conveniently accessed 24/7. However, most app users will either use it at their home during the nighttime when they are most active on their phone, or when they're at the beach performing the actual behaviour. The next is the price strategy. For this intervention, the price is the cost the target market associates with adopting the desired behaviour. This can be divided into two barriers: monetary and non-monetary. Monetary costs involve costs of goods and services associated with the desired behaviour. For this intervention, there will be no monetary costs for the consumer, as the app will be free to download due to the funding from potential partners. The second barrier is non-monetary costs, which can be intangible but real and may be more significant. The non-monetary price for consumers includes mainly psychological costs. When using augmented reality and seeing an image of what they may look like in 20 years, there could be a fear of facing one's truth and the fear of going outside if the image is too distressing. To overcome this non-monetary price barrier, it is important to frame the message positively and remind that going to the beach and getting sun exposure is okay, but you must wear sunscreen and other sun protection measures to make the message clear that UV damage is preventable. Moving on to the last marketing P, which is promotion. To get people to download the application, the messages that will be used include popular beauty influencers on social media, such as Lauren Curtis, as mentioned earlier. Advertising through influencers will allow the intervention app to be promoted through someone that a niche community follows, engages with, and trusts daily. If consumers see an influencer using this mobile application, they will too. The funding partners' social media channels will also be used to increase the awareness of the campaign. Social media advertising and digital advertising will be the main two channels for promotion, as this age group are social media savvy and constantly connected. To encourage people to download the app, the message framing will be positively framed with an emotional appeal and benefit-focused message positioning. The message of the campaign is based around what is the #1 beauty secret, with a supporting tagline of "Don't let the sun get under your skin." This message is positively framed in the way that here is how you can increase your chances of keeping your skin healthy for longer, as opposed to previous interventions which would usually frame the message negatively. For example, you'll age quicker if you don't use sun protection. In addition, an emotional appeal was used as opposed to rational to encourage those who don't consider a campaign's message to be personally relevant to still engage with the message. This message has been positioned to focus on the benefits, utilizing the "what's in it for me" factors, where the perceived benefits become the focus of the positioning. By using the headline, #1 beauty secret, we are implying there is a benefit of safe tanning and using sun protection. The next slide of the creative mock-up helps put the message framing into context. As you can see, the visual imagery attracts the emotional appeal and also depicts the main feature of the intervention. The picture of the iPhone helps illustrate the intervention is a mobile application and that it can be downloaded on the App Store and Google Play with the logos present. Additionally, the logos at the top highlight this intervention is a joint initiative and it also helps add credibility. The benefit-focused message positioning is outlined in the headline and the subheading gives structure about the intervention. The words are short and to the point to increase engagement and achieve a strong, powerful message. We will now discuss the media planning for this intervention, which is the process by which advertising budgets are allocated to different types of media, such as TV, radio, or newspapers, and to specific vehicles over a budget period. The planning is based on simple principles which include what are the objectives, what alternatives are there, and which alternative offers the best chance of achieving the objective. The objective here is to build awareness of the mobile application and get people to engage with it. The objectives could be achieved in many ways, such as TV adverts, newspaper articles, or radio. However, these options are expensive and would not reach the target audience. Therefore, social media advertising through Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube will be used, as it is cost-effective and easily accessible. The campaign will be launched in October to reinforce the message and apply the intervention before the summer season starts, as well as during it. 60% of the advertising costs will be used over the summer period, as this is when the target audience will most likely be performing sun exposure behaviours due to the warmer temperatures and UV levels. And also to ensure the message is being seen, the sponsored posts will mainly be targeted during the night when the consumers are more likely to be using Facebook and Instagram the most. Now moving on to the evaluation strategy. Evaluation is an important part of every social cause marketing campaign. It is a means to find out if the goals of the intervention were reached, and if not, how can we improve the intervention? To evaluate the effectiveness, it is essential to have a baseline against which changes can be measured. This data would be taken from the app and social media usage. It will also analyse the number of visits and the time spent in the app, along with the number of surveys completed and the number of click-through sponsored posts. The evaluation strategy will consist of 3 phase aims. The first aim is to understand the target market's current mindset of sun exposure and protection behaviour to ensure it matches with the conceptual framework outlined earlier. It will evaluate the attitude towards tanning with the pop-up survey when they first open the app. The second phase aim is to identify if the augmented reality image had an immediate effect on the attitude towards sun protection. This phase will evaluate the perception of tanning after viewing the image of themselves through a pop-up survey in the mobile app. And the third phase aim is to evaluate the effectiveness of the intervention. This will be evaluated through a survey which will ask questions around the attitude changes and if the intervention was effective after 3 months of using the app. Ethical considerations are norms for conduct that distinguish acceptable from unacceptable behaviour. 2 ethics to consider for this intervention are the exaggeration of a true image through augmented reality, and the app is purely an educational tool, not a diagnostic tool. Augmented reality is a powerful tool for persuasion because it can create a convincing experience that changes our thoughts and perception and therefore behaviour, but changing how we see, expect, interact and experience the world around us. For the intervention to prove effective, an exaggeration of the true image is applied, which could be seen as unethical. Furthermore, another ethical consideration is the app is not a diagnostic tool. The information is purely for educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice and is not a substitute for seeing a qualified doctor who can determine the individual's medical needs. Moving on to potential unintended consequences. These are outcomes that are not the ones foreseen and intended by a purposeful action. A negative unintended consequence could be that an individual uses the app, sees an image of what they could look like in 20 years, and becomes a hermit because they fear going outside and being exposed to the sun. The second potential unintended consequence for this intervention could be the total opposite. The individual does not believe the image because of the exaggeration and continues to perform the unwanted behaviour. In conclusion, this presentation critically evaluated the social cause of sun protection among young female Australians. It was found that the main deterrent for this target audience to not perform sun protection measures was because they valued the appearance of suntanned skin as being attractive and healthy. Based on this literature, an intervention was developed to combat this attitude. Using appearance-based factors rather than health risk factors, a mobile application with augmented reality was implemented to modify this behaviour. The intervention used a positively framed message with an emotional appeal to attract the audience to download the app through social media advertising and social media influencers. An evaluation strategy was discussed to measure the effectiveness of the campaign, and ethical considerations and potential unintended consequences were identified, which included an exaggeration of true image through augmented reality and fear of going outside after seeing the image. Overall, this intervention, if successful, will lead to young women in Queensland using sunscreen every time when outdoors. Thank you for watching.